Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Crystal, what's on the show?
I am so excited about the show today. We have a lot of great stuff, including Jeff Weaver, Bernie Sanders' top aide. He's going to take us back in time. He's been with Bernie for 30 years, so he tells us some stories from the early days. We also got a new poll out of Colorado that is pretty interesting. And the Democrats have hatched a brilliant plan to lose to Donald Trump again. We'll explain all that and more today on Rising. All right, Saagar, what are you looking at?
Well, Joe Biden's handlers let him out last night for a campaign event in Iowa, and it went as it usually does. The former vice president started things off by claiming that Bobby Kennedy and Martin Luther King Jr. were killed in the late 1970s. But it was said between the gaffes that really mattered. Biden told voters yesterday that if Trump is defeated, quote, "You're going to see an altar call. All of a sudden, people are going to see the Lord because they're not going to be intimidated by a man who is venal and will go after them." He continued, "I'm not promising that there will be a newfound, kumbaya moment where everybody loves each other. But what is broken is our politics, not the system." Joe Biden is the system. That's exactly why so many people like him and why he'd be a disaster as a president and a candidate. Joe Biden refuses to grapple with his role over the last 40 years in creating a system that discriminates against so many in our economy and one that has looted our own middle class to build China's, leaving us more polarized and divided than ever. The divided, broken system is why America voted for Donald Trump in 2016. Like him or not, and I know many of you get annoyed when I praise him here, but he has spent virtually his entire presidency fighting back against the institutions that Joe Biden built to enact some sort of change in this town. His greatest victory is reminding us once and for all that the emperors have no clothes. One of those emperors is Joe Biden. Joe Biden is the man who told a room full of Wall Street donors that, quote, "Nothing will fundamentally change." Over and over again, he tells us who he is. And his message is a backwards look at a country that has long passed him by. But what's worse is not only that he's wrong in his vision for the presidency, but he actually just really doesn't seem to get it at all. Biden tried to clean up his comments that his wife made on Monday when she made the exhilarating pitch to voters that while they may not like her husband's position on health care because he's beating Trump in the polls, you should choose him. Let's take a listen to what she said.
But you've got to look at who's going to win this election. And maybe you have to swallow a little bit and say, okay, I sort of personally like so-and-so better. But your bottom line has to be that we have to beat Trump.
Now let's listen to Biden's attempts to clean up those remarks.
She was making the case. You should pick the person you think could win because none of our issues will matter if Donald Trump wins. That was the point she was making.
It gets worse, folks. Biden clearly has been hearing how Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren are getting much bigger crowds than him across the state, and he sought to reassure his supporters, saying, "I don't think they matter. I don't think a particular crowd size matters. This is a marathon. This is a marathon. They're going to change. There's going to be ups and downs." You've heard all of this before. Close your eyes. You can almost see the ghost of Hillary Clinton standing in front of you. I guess as someone on the right, I'm almost salivating over it. It's just sad. I mean, I think that his comment, he said so many analogous things over the last couple of months, but the politics is broken, not the system. Yeah. That is such a revelatory comment.
And it's fundamental.
Yeah, it is fundamental to his candidacy, to who he is, to this whole altar call. I mean, it's like, no, that is not whatsoever how politics works today. I mean, I don't think that Republicans have any fantasies that if they were to just, if Paul Ryan were president, I think that the vehemence and the hatred of the Republican Party would be just as prevalent as it is on the Democratic side, because fundamentally what it's all about is power. It's not actually about they say Trump is such a despicable human being. That's all ancillary.
Well, it's about power, and it's about the fact that putting D.C., putting Washington, putting politics to the side, we have some deep structural issues in this country. I mean, you point out we have people who are literally dying earlier, perhaps the most important metric of a society. Our communities are crumbling, massive addiction crisis, climate crisis, etc. I'm reminded not just of Hillary Clinton and crowd size doesn't matter, I remember that argument, but also Obama saying that if he was reelected, the fever was going to break.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what this, and of course the fever did not break, and now we have Donald Trump, which is like the fever on steroids, but that is just what Joe Biden sounds like here when he denies the fact that there are fundamental problems. The interesting thing about Jill Biden's comments, his wife's comments, is that they were kind of too honest.
Yeah.
You know, they
It
really
was
recognize
the quiet
fact.
part out loud.
Right. They
Yeah.
really recognize the fact that, you know, people are not supporting Biden because they love what he stands for, they love his agenda, they love his policy ideas. His support is really resting on this idea that he is the most electable. And that is a very soft and thin read for him to rest, especially when he's going out and talking about how, you know, Martin Luther King Jr. was killed in the
70s.
70s.
It's just, it's, yeah.
I wasn't around, and I know that one.